Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot happening in a very short period of time. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. I want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July out here in America. God bless America. 6 months ago, boy, I tell you what, we weren't sure which way this country was going. But I definitely am more down with where we're headed today. No doubt about it. And that doesn't make me a Republican. It doesn't make me a Democrat. I tell you what it makes me, just like it makes all of you, an American patriot. I'm glad to say it. $3.4 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 5.6. Right now, 107,000 plus for Bitcoin, 2,500 plus for Ethereum. XRP number 4 spots 222. Now we're off 3.3 on the 24 and up 5.9 on the 7-day. The range of price between 222 and 230. We'll keep an eye on it. Remember, 222 was a very, very important price point, critical to remain bullish. So I'm loving that we're at 222 and holding strong right now. I want to talk about this. This is DAI and myself have come together with iTrustCapital, ladies and gentlemen. And I have been with iTrustCapital going on 6 years, I believe it is, if not already 6 years. And it's gone by like nothing. And I'll tell you why. Because I feel so good about my assets being in that IRA. I've never, ever felt like I had to worry about it being compromised. And lo and behold, they've come out with PCA accounts now. And if you're a new client, you can get a $100 funding bonus. But let me tell you what, I want to talk about this because there is some confusion. I get a lot of people asking me questions and DMs and asking me things like, what does closed loop system mean? So I'm going to work through this again, because I do want you to understand what it is specifically designed for. There is a certain audience that the PCA is absolutely designed for. So the USD and crypto can go in your PCA account, right? Your premium custody account, but only USD comes out of the account. To withdraw it, you must liquidate the crypto you have in your account to USD, and funds can only be sent to your linked US bank account, which is obviously set up ahead of time. Why does this matter? It matters because it is designed in direct response to personal security threats. You know, SIM card swaps, email breaches, phone call scams, social engineering, and more. They've hit iTrustCapital founders and executives personally, and they know exactly what it feels like to be in a situation like that. So the big difference between other platforms and the PCA account offered by iTrust is this is a closed loop system in that, compared to these other platforms, this model is all about eliminating the ability to move crypto out, which removes a huge attack vector. In other words, it's not for everyone, and that's intentional. So if you're a long-term holder that doesn't want to move your assets around in and out other cryptos, and you don't want to send out crypto out of your account, and you're cool with cashing out to cash, then this is a great way to eliminate a lot of threats that we deal with on the daily. Now, it also needs to be understood that, not one platform fits them all. And that's why I'm on multiple platforms, and iTrustCapital is one of them, and you can be too. Look, you can start getting the best night's sleep in crypto that you've ever had when you start getting on these platforms that give you the kind of security you deserve. iTrustCapital.com/XRPArmy and use the code XRP6 below to get started. Let's go right here. 93% chance U.S. national debt surpasses $38 trillion in 2025, according to crypto prediction platform Polymarket, which, by the way, is a massive, massive number. And we better have a plan for it. That's all I can say, because if you don't, it's certainly got plans for all of us. And that wouldn't look good. Now, this is the U.S. Treasury Secretary, and let's hear what he says about the CBO has generated $2.8 trillion in revenue. There's a reason why we're talking about all of this that sits outside of crypto. You'll get it in a second.
Let's think about this. You can't have it both ways. The tariff's going to hurt the economy, then we're going to pick up, according to CBO, if you want to take CBO scoring over the 10-year window, we pick up 2.8 trillion in revenue. And what we've seen so far is that tariffs haven't hurt. The dog that didn't bark was that tariffs going to hurt the economy, we're going to hurt the market. Market had the fastest recovery ever. April from a 15% decline, and we're at new highs in the market. So I've made my career on listening to the market, not Wall Street economists, so I'm going to stick with what the market's telling me.
And you know what? Scott Bessent, that is quite a statement coming from him. Last time I looked, his net worth was sitting at about 700 million. So he listens to the markets pretty well. Okay. So the reason I'm showing you that is because of the danger of these high numbers. $38 trillion. And obviously the U.S. Treasury Secretary and the current administration and President Trump all working to get the country turned around, which is a tricky situation because in some cases, not only are you reworking trade deals around the world, you're trying to cut costs, but at the same time, you're also trying to cut the tax incentives so you can inspire growth, which has you absorbing more cost, obviously, as well. So this gets a very, very tricky game that's happening. Now, years ago, there was the simulation wars, crypto simulation, monetary simulation wars that took place with the likes of a Gary Gensler and other important people in politics and regulators sitting around a table doing a mock simulation. And this is the stuff that they were worried about in these mock simulations. Currency wars, currency manipulation, digital yuan. Take a listen.
We have been leapfrogged by others, by digital currency, by digital Chinese currency. Why? Because, frankly, our central bank has been slow. And there's an appointment coming in January of 22. The president's got to decide whether to change over who's leading the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve runs our payment system. And I think we need to move that Federal Reserve into the modern era.
What about in 5 minutes if we hear that the world is trading oil in this digital yuan? What does that do to our economy?
Which, by the way, since this simulation, currency war simulation has taken place, they have started doing that.
I think we really have to ask some of these questions so we don't have to wait 3 or 4 days for you to call a meeting every time something important happens. Thank you.
Here is the way that I'm going to summarize what I will read out to the president. Per the Secretary of State's recommendation that there will be a POTUS call to President Xi. We're going to talk about new avenues for cooperation. We need a strategy to, one, modernize our SWIFT system. I think the word was harden from cyber attack, from the North Koreans in particular. But we need to develop and present options to the president for a U.S. equivalent of a digital currency, either a private-public partnership or, if the Treasury is able to do it with the Fed, something that would be a public-only option. We need a strategy to resuscitate U.S. financial prowess, I think is the way you put it, Madam Vice President, and examine this idea of secondary sanctions and whether in the overuse of them, we've actually undermined our ability to use them down the road.
Breaking news out of Brussels this evening. A cyber attack on SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, has resulted in the theft of $3 billion from commercial banks based in Germany, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE.
So there you have it. And that was all from a simulated currency war years ago, dealing with the real threats that are happening today. And then we have to remind you that that's all discussing market infrastructure when you're talking about SWIFT. Well, guess what? Brad Garlinghouse is set to appear at a market infrastructure banking GOP hearing next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Should be more pressure to get this bill on the front burner in D.C. now that the Genius Act and the big, beautiful bills are out of the way. Well, here it is. Next Wednesday, here it is, July 9th, 10 a.m., 5 days from now. We're going to have the Honorable Summer Mersinger, CEO of Blockchain Association, along with the CEO of Chainalysis, Jonathan Levin, Dan Robinson, General Partner of Paradigm, and yes, Mr. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, talking about market infrastructure, XRP ledger, hello, currency wars, 38 trillion in debt, right? Oh, I'm not done yet. Remember when Greg Kidd just said this at XRP Las Vegas on stage?
It's focused only on deposits and payments, no branches, no lending. Basically, I will continue to promote legislation. So a company like Ripple could actually get a bank license. Right.
That's the kind of stuff you hear at XRP Las Vegas before it goes down, ladies and gentlemen. And U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says there's a $2 trillion in possible stablecoin U.S. Treasury demand. $2 trillion. $2 trillion. And what do we see? Ripple applies for a U.S. banking license and a national banking charter right there. That's what's going down. Yeah. And what did Brad highlight? Banks are leaning in. This access would allow us to hold real USD reserves directly with the Fed and provide additional layer of security to future-proof trust in real USD. Let's talk about that. Let's unpack that. It would allow us to hold real USD reserves directly at the Fed. Love that. Love that. It also tells me that the XRP ledger is connected to the Federal Reserve. Come on in. Yeah. Now, do you remember back in March when Watcher Guru put this out? And it was a tweet that was removed and they said that they were hacked, but they got their account back in like 2 seconds. Just in, SWIFT nearing agreement with Ripple to use XRP for cross-border payments with billions of XRP secured in escrow as liquidity reserves. And then they took it down like 1 minute later, and 3 minutes later they said, sorry guys, we were hacked. In all my years of the internet, I've never seen anyone hack and get their account back so quickly. I think it was a tweet, and then they were told, wait. That went out a little too soon. Now, remember this guy, Graham Bright? Interviewed him for the movie Kryptonaires that people always say we never made, but did. It's unbelievable.
SWIFT is the preeminent messaging system for the financial industry, which covers, say, payments, FX, trade, in terms of securities, etc., Nostra reconciliations, etc. What we're looking with the crypto, though, is where SWIFT would have a store and forward system for most of its payment transactions, where you need service level agreements that in a certain time I will do something, but payment turns up at a certain time during the day. Here we're looking at the new network styles, which allow instant, real-time movement to the funds and visibility of those funds as well. So we would not have a situation where banks need to come back to you and say, have my funds arrived? It's 3 days later. I need to find out or find query messages moving around the network. There's nothing like that. I don't believe Ripple is going to replace SWIFT. Ripple is one of the complementary networks, which is going to allow those institutions who need real time to make use of that. And I think we're also seeing that SWIFT are changing their network capability so that real time will be a possibility as well. But we may also see Ripple XRP moving across the SWIFT network as a currency when we're perhaps using something like FX.
There you have it. And that's from years ago, Graham Bright talking about that. And now we see Brad Garlinghouse going before Congress next Wednesday. And then, remember, at the most recent Apex, we saw Brad Garlinghouse predict XRP will handle 14% of Swiss volume in the next 5 years. I can't play. He says 14% in 5 years. He says here. So, I mean, and then they go through David, and he says SWIFT today is 2 ways to get us liquidity, messaging and liquidity. And he says, you know, it's focused on the liquidity is the more important part, right? And then he says here, you know, XRP. So he says, I'd say, you know, in the next 5 years, XRP could get 14% of SWIFT. 14%. That's a hell of a number. James Rule grabbed it too. He brought it out today. He said 14% of 180 trillion that SWIFT does. The SWIFT system facilitates trillions of dollars in cross-border payments annually. Specifically, it processes over 5 trillion in money transfers each day, which translates to approximately 180 trillion per year. This makes it the dominant global financial messaging system. No doubt about it. But what does it come out to for 14% of SWIFT if we capture that volume? And looking here, it gives a range of price that could go conservatively from $2.97 all the way up to $99.15. That's the range of price it breaks down because it can't absolutely know. Although it does highlight it right here, $17.85 to $23.81 is more realistic for the 21 trillion annual volume estimate. So that lines up with the targets we've seen from Dark Defender and Egg Rag Crypto, which gives them more credence to me because I know that these guys have called a lot of other things like daily closes and all of this stuff really well over the last several years. So the way I see it is that this is getting super exciting now that Brad is going to be appearing and testifying in front of a committee at Congress on market infrastructure, which is exactly what the XRP ledger is. A brand new market infrastructure that has a built-in layer one decentralized exchange for all the other chains of the world to plug into because it's a multi-chain world after all. Yeah. And you know what? And when I start singing is when you know we got to end this video. So I just want to say no freedom zone today because I know, look, it is a day to celebrate your freedom in this country and our independence. And especially now, we're getting it back. The woke culture is dead, ladies and gentlemen, and thank God for it. All I can say is I hope everybody has a happy and safe holiday with your family and friends. And if you're not in the country celebrating, celebrate for us, would you? My goodness. And I celebrate for all of you, if you're not in the country as well, that you are also in a place and a land where the people are taking control of their country and getting the power back in the hands of we, the people. That's right. I'll catch all of you on the next one.